would you like to share with us the highlights of your career and lows, if any?
Oh, that's a big question. I came to this profession where there were very few women in it, and I came to England from South Africa as a colonial person, and I remember coming as a graduate student. And it was interesting to me because my father had had the same history. He came to Ireland and did his PhD, his medical degree at Trinity College, because we didn't have that kind of qualification in South Africa. But because he was from a Jewish background, he couldn't go to England. He could choose between Ireland and Scotland because he was like a peripheral person. And so he came here, and he always told me that when he arrived in the university, people would look at him as if to say, well, we have to teach you to speak all over again. And that was what it was like in the 1960s coming to the London School of Economics. There were also no women, very few women. So the idea was, if you were a woman anthropologist, you would study something like child rearing or religion, maybe an aspect, the soft area of religion or aesthetics or something, but you didn't study politics or law or anything kind of quite really central. And my husband and I were both students together. So the notion was I would like take the notes, and do and this was a way a lot of famous anthropologists worked, by the way. People like Victor Turner, the Africanist who became famous both here and in America. His wife was an equally famous anthropologist, but in her generation she did the field work and kept the papers. And he had the global career, and she had the children. So in the late 60s there was very much the sense that you weren't really going to have much of a career, but it would be a good thing if you helped your husband. So those were the kind of low points. And then when we got jobs at the University of Manchester, one of us had to choose which one could have the job, because there were nepotism clauses, which meant that only one of you could hold a job at the same time. And that was why we went to America. At that point also, Mrs. Thatcher was the Deputy Minister of Education in Britain, still a Labour government. But the writing was on the wall. She used to constantly confuse sociology and socialism. She used to talk about the Department of Socialism. And we decided that this was the point that maybe we should decamp. And then when we went to the States, it was another thing altogether, because there, as long as you produced the goods, it didn't matter. They would give us both jobs in the same university, and you could be a woman, but there were no allowances made. The fact that you might have children, there was no child care, there was nothing like that. So that was a difficulty, you had to struggle to. But the advantages were that we also are of a generation where there are increasingly women. There's more diversity, the universities are open, or have been until recently. We will now see with this austerity how open they are, because universities are soon going to be, I think, available to rich people more than anybody else, right? But the period that we were being educated there was an opening up of these possibilities. And there also was a globalization of English, which made it very easy for many of us. It's a disaster in some ways to small local languages elsewhere. But it means that we can go anywhere, and we assume that we speak, and somebody will, and you can write in English, and so those were all advantages. And I think it's a great luxury to be able to work in a university. You're constantly with young people, with highly intelligent, and people who are optimistic often about the world. We're lucky, right?